iPhone ya yo something.
iPad ke airdrop link it away.
Jason
Oh,
Ling
no, ya jo.
Mena desi ya yo. Lam sang ye kar jo. Jason Ling ka den da re. My iPad jo de library. De yerme do jelo yewanda yanda lama da andrame juje bala juje ngazada lam yonde razone dorje jange goma nyordo yo mane da lama rumoje da ge ora bemende yone gane je mongone je do gozo no jeng ro za da zo gane zo je lama da re zo do je mene bi Kandi jumre de jera ga mar dorje gala zorande rana doro ne je tabje we yendere be jar gon jam zale ko da yen ga na ge zela rezanam je kon bangon jo yo o dere teni chudona ba ne je chamala ningon de le kya da de ta ne de san chu cho da thoki ne simbar kyos.
Good afternoon, all my Dharma friends. Please listen with the motivation of Supreme Bodhichitta.
Ori tende ta tazu goni de sanjo sen nabani mambo ke hisambari tende ta dor dun hi gana nga zo de da ki mar zam lo te la tin dan zen te la tin tene de do ko chona zamla te nga zo gong khorne tene dimban zen 당아 좀 turn 디오든 turn come 세바 come some 코란디나 turn 디인 서비스 심지 탐지 당에서 파마마즈 버게 겸해 받은 가서 히리 도도모다 자창마젤리 제 겸해 와서 히리 되는 가서 대 심지 대다 탐지라 삼닝지 산촉스 닝지 침부루 대탐지 되니 대화를 딩탑을라 삼노로 동교데 닝지게 로리 닝지게 인도도 메바 대 짬지 핑가마리 되는 타토 산제가 공바토 고두 히랍 조장을 메바 삼노데 넬 람초 라마 드반 달티네 심지 대다 탐지 감성 콜 심지 대다 탐지 샤완 냥일랜데 바 공판 빠딘 라마 담바게 공판되는 게 꾸기인 디서도 당하게 라마드 곰네 라마드 드럼네 심지가 동세케인 삼니게 따티 책용용 되라 삼노리 동도 되니 라마 공거리 되는 게 마켜게.
To summarize a bit of what we discussed this morning, the immediate need for our generation of altruistic bodhicitta is that it is our selfishness that has throughout beginningless samsara caused and maintained our delusion. Selfishness causes us to, in a panicky way, seek our own happiness to the ignorance of, or possibly even the exclusion of, the well-being of others. And as long as we are selfish and fixated on ourselves, even when we think of others, we do so as only in relation to ourselves. Even those that we may feel affection for, we do so because they are, as we think to ourselves, my something. My parents, my children, my friends, and so on. So the fundamental problem with such selfishness, it is impossible for it to succeed. The more selfish we are, the less happy we will be. So therefore, in order to bring about the happiness of ourselves and others, we need to be concerned with and devoted to the happiness not only of ourselves, but of others as well. And that is the starting point of the need for bodhicitta, which ultimately develops, as I mentioned this morning, into the cultivation of impartial compassion, universal love, and finally, bodhicitta. However, compassion itself, while essential, indispensable, is not enough for the achievement of awakening. The mindset that brings us to awakening has to have two parameters. The aspect or parameter of compassion, which is focused on all beings without exception, and the parameter of wisdom, which recognizes that the only way to bring about the lasting happiness for all beings that you now desire is through the achievement of perfect awakening. So that second parameter is called wisdom, focused on perfect awakening. In order to achieve these and maximize these, we must therefore bring ourselves and all others to the state of perfect awakening, the state of the Guru. And that recognition, the mature form of bodhicitta, also forms the segue between the initial generation of bodhicitta and the engagement in the principal practice in order to bring about its stated aim.
Lama gomba tang tene Topgyal soran de patang wangel tuyi seki wangel inja ta te sabji namba sumra wore toni hyunan riksari ten de tela tomar de lama gomje teri lama gomni kapsala tene juma luche yinla chok zir se yinla chok ze juma lu ta nga chok pon zobon de juma nangir jumi jiwo ke juma turja de nangi nga so ko chazo ko lero pa namge jingdu je tendu che ke ri ma to je ke danzen de dinzen ke lo jin ya yo pa ta ndala dimbar zan ndala da dan zan de jore ke tendu che yin cha hyok chimbo jen de nga so le yo ma ri de juma nangi juma da malam nangi da go malam ke de do chon na nyong de da na mewa nangi ri de ya nangi nga so juma ke phombo de phongkam de di ke yinla ke zen rao de dan cho de ko lama de pe za chimbo la ce ke yu du de ne di jiwo zo ke de yinla ke cho ke ze la de ne lama de gong go de de ne ze la go la ma tak ta thau ma song wa de za re ya trokam da chi zamam 솔몽아 당고라 말에 좀 지르바 계기 올래 다 간다량 초고래 고토라 마다인 야마 송와 잠나 야공 디토데네 데네 덴르게 게제데네 데네 생게 게처 문제 동 생게 게처 디데데 데네 다 취지 메도 베만다마 동디암 간호게 gon 디토데네 Tabki Yermi Kongo Nimadang Davidina, Dinja Tangtane, Tabki Yermi Kongo Zena, Tongi Daka Kantarian, Ninjik, Yermi Kongo Zena, Dornata, Tabki Yermi Kongo Zena, Kantana, Tetana Nimada Dava, Ti Zimmer, the Tangtanes, Ti Totanetini, Devakepa, Jara, Sedo Jebatan, Jijin Depungovo. 다 라마를 곰제다 라마텔라 산제 탐지 되되어지 산제 탐지 되봉 오죠 산제 탐지 좁은 되어지죠 산제 탐지 톡제리 샘제리 나조 그 샘다 산제 탐지 그 샘제리 마도 가가라 요 말이 대인도 탐지 되되어리 고 자와 탐지 hilong도 제리 마도 가가라 요 말이 샘그 남카를 찹된데 나 차창마 고파 찹되어리 파 예미든 진로도 팔라면 토든 안세 예민 리서야데 가서 판 진로도 람 공주고 또 받아 또 자도 파던데 파찹 진로 걸면서 가할라 요 말다다 단전의 딘전의 인전의 로를 띠네 가서 철되어린 천나 될라 띠네 가하리 넘어도 Lama Tolan Rangasama Yemit and Ridiori. They get Java Tamjin Dupa Lama Nurse, the Lama de Karisina, the Lama de Nazo, Chantong Terchen Barway Dorje, Tsar, and that Terchen Barway Dorje. Nazo Gatar, Ranjak Zava Lama. Zogo na ta cha cha ma so de chin barwa dor je ta kon goro rom bo ji ngu san je ngu ri de odri de de ta so dan drewa to so ge yarwa cham de ko pin do chin bo jong cha le nga zon drewa ya cha ni de ne ma che ge de lama barwa dor je ka lama ya sa cha de ori ta de na na de drewa top chi de la de ko ngo ne ta ne ke ko Zangder Zelen, the Namji Sanje, that Timbaro Dorje, Chompete, Sangeji, Pakindra, Yatsa, the ten, the Tartan Mambo, Huma, Humado Chanton, the Timbaro Dorje, Tsar, the Lama, the Nambane, Lomju Zopoko, Pemam Jone, Dorje, the Tervens, Dorje, and they don't sympathizers, Dorje, the Tervens, and they don't hear me Bagongo.
De tong sungadu, de chen sungadu.
De tong.
De tong.
De tong. Dordren zanje, de tong sampachir. De tong yirmi dordjen treva. Ting sambak chetong, jene yogdi lirege. Tendri shaitan. Tene te ngo zaval lama, yadam la, malun de padani dordjen chang. Salam jazer opong trikpa long. Tang dong choda tawa langer sar song tiyin chu tigat lama gom chadri. Tita ngwa te tsawa lama yambala namba dorjen chang garo ramboche lomchi zopo chalo dorjen chang ke ngwa yogdili. Ta tindru ke sar go le lama da yadam yerme ba, ransen da lama yerme ba, lama da yadam yerme ba tindru ke. Ta ndema tata tusam je Deba Dani Tindrikek, Tenin Jazerta, O Ngai, O Pong Trip, Long Na, Deni, Taco, Nandon Chuda Tower, Sitanga, Jeram Gomnica, so Nang Nandili, the Nawa de Tomba, the Nawa, Nandon Yermeba, Chananga Dawa Tower, Namkan Jazon Tower, Langer, Liner, Sarchata, the son be Hal Lebachek. Chazogolo sar tapare, sar chatan, tin chatan, Tendrika Gongor, Lama de that, Tendrika Yoyu Samnire, Tendite Gongo.
De Kaji Chinga. De Savelama, de Terchen Barway Dorje, Namba Lonku, Pema Jong, Dorje Zembadona, Dorje Chang, Chanke Chaluk Chende, Kudo. Ngombo, Dorje Chang.
Dorje Chang.
Oh, yeah, nice. Dona Dorje Chang, don Pema Jone, don Terchen Barway Dorje, Sonka
Yerme,
oh, nice. Okay. So, with that, we have completed the first of the three parts of the practice, which is goodness in the beginning, the generation of bodhicitta. And now we turn to the second part of the practice, which is the main body, the goodness in the middle, through the cultivation of great non-conceptual wisdom. Here, as this is the practice of Guruyoga, this will have three parts. First, meditation on the Guru, in other words, imagining the Guru's form. Second, within that context, supplication of or prayer to the Guru. And then third and finally, mixing your mind with the mind of your Guru through receiving the four empowerments. So of these, we begin with the first. So this first part, for those following in the English text on page 237, starts with the words at the top on the third or fourth line, depending upon how you count them, of the liturgy, and concludes with the word water moon and the end of the middle of the page. The description of the visualization begins at the top of the supreme limb of my illusory body. Supreme here is meant simply literally, supreme as in highest, higher, highest. So the highest limb or part of your body is your head. Your head is normally higher than the rest of your body. At least it grows that way. And so if you're upside down, that's different. But so normally your head is on top. So it's the supreme limb of your illusory body. But now we come to this description of your body as your illusory body. Well, this term illusory body, as many of you know, is used very frequently and with distinct or different meanings in the Vajrayana. So what is meant here? Lama said that we define illusion or magical illusion, maya, as anything that is not what it appears to be. And the analogy of magical illusion is like a stage magician who causes you to see things that are not what they appear to be. Well, your body is in that sense a magical illusion. Your body is like an illusionist's or stage magician's magical illusion, or like something that you experience in a dream, in that it is not what it appears to be. It does not have the attributes that we ascribe to it. What are the attributes that we ascribe to our bodies? Permanence, our bodies are not permanent. Unity, our bodies are not unitary. And independence, our bodies are not independent. They're constantly interacting with and dependent upon the environment around them. But we act and feel as though our bodies are permanent, unitary, and independent. So when we say, my body is an illusory body, you could simply say, my body which is not what I treat it to be, which is not what I feel sometimes it is. Now, at the top of the supreme limb of my illusory body, Lama said means that the throne and the guru seated on that throne are just above the crown of your head, so that the bottom of the throne is close to but not quite touching or joined to the top of your head. So it's not, it's not digging into your head, it's not nailed to your head, it's not glued to your head. This is a lot of mato.
Lama jagpa and the jigo jumbo.
Some people, the reason for visualizing just a little bit of space, like between the throne and your head, is otherwise, our habits are strong. You might start to feel that there's a heavy weight on you, especially if you imagine your guru as being corpulent. Then you might think, oh my God, that's heavy, and I have neck problems, and it hurts my head, and so on. It's a joke that we're saying it, but people actually there are stories about this. Now, the throne is described in the next, or seat, in the next line, which says, are a lion throne, lotus, sun, and moon. Lama said there are an almost infinite number of correspondences and significances to this fourfold throne. We can have a twofold throne, threefold throne. This is the full fourfold throne. So the golden throne decorated with jewels, upheld by 8 snow lions, represents most fundamentally fearlessness, the fourfold fearlessness of perfect Buddhahood. So it means that the Guru is awakened. It also represents the complete purification of all karmic winds or energy. On top of that is a lotus flower in full bloom. Lama said you can imagine it as a 1,000-petal lotus flower or any number of petals that you find pleasing, because it's not specified. So you have some wiggle room. The lotus flower represents the full realization of primordial purity, and also the full purification of the channels and chakras of the Guru's body. On top of that lotus flower are 2 discs of light. The first is the disc of the sun, which is seen as like an orange or reddish yellow fiery disc. And on top of that is the disc of the moon, which is seen as a brilliant, pure white disc. They're both made of light. Don't think of the moon as like with craters and things like that. And they're both basically flat. Again, Lama said the sun represents the Guru's wisdom, and the moon his compassion. Also, if the lotus represents the realization of primordial purity, the sun is the realization of spontaneous presence, and the moon is the realization of all-pervasive compassion. And if the throne represents the purification of the winds, and the lotus the purification of the channels, the sun and moon together represent the purification of the white and red elements of the Vajra body. So in short, the Guru is seated on a fourfold throne that represents perfect purity and awakening. Continuing, the next line says, "On top of them is my Guru, the personification of all Sugatas, all victors." The personification means that your Guru embodies in one all Buddhas. And here we're given 2 similes for Buddha. One is Sugata. Sugata means either, it's explained in Tibetan 2 ways. One is gone, well gone, like the Buddha's, like you would say, you've done very well. Well, the Buddha, to say at least, did very well. Or gone to bliss. Su means bliss, but it can be an adverb or an adjective in this case. So in any case, Sugata means a Buddha. And victor or winner is also here synonymous for Buddhas. But Lama said, of importance to understand here is why or how, what does it mean that your Guru is the personification of all Buddhas? Aren't Buddhas different Buddhas? Not really. In truth, all Buddhas have one mind, the same mind. And Lama said we could go even further and say, actually, we, sentient beings, have that same mind too. We seem not to. But the reason why our minds appear to be separate from the minds of Buddhas, all Buddhas, is because of the barrier of our delusion. When that barrier is removed, as it is in the case of Buddha, of any Buddha, then that Buddha, as soon as they become a Buddha, is automatically all Buddhas. So therefore, when you imagine that your Guru, who is a Buddha, is all Buddhas, you're not imagining it. You're not pretending. It's true. Any Buddha is all Buddhas. That's what being Buddha is. And then you identify the Guru by name. In the next line, you say, the Heruka Terchen Barway Dorje Tsal. So Terchen Barway Dorje Tsal is a longer form of the name of Terchen Barway Dorje. Terchen, of course, means great bliss. And he's called the Heruka Terchen Barway Dorje itself. And the Terchen Barway Dorje, in that life, as the Terchen Barway Dorje, in his successive lives, such as in his appearance as Rinpoche, or immediate guru, is someone who Lama said, I don't want to go on about this because it could be infinite, and we'd never get past this one line. But to put it briefly, this is somebody who, when you meet them, even once, when you have any kind of contact with them, it at that moment becomes certain that at some point your samsara is going to come to an end. Samsara could go on forever, but once you've met him, it has an ending date. When it ends is up to you. If you form the best connection with Barway Dorje, it will end in that life. This will be your last samsaric birth. After this life, it will be over. If you form the worst connection with him, it'll take a much, much longer time. And so in many cases, it'll be somewhere between the two. But the point is that no matter what, it will be over. The process of the ending of your delusion and your samsara began the moment you came into contact with Terchen Barway Dorje. The next line says, his form is the Sambhogakaya Padmakara. Now this is going to be a little confusing, but it's actually not. We can straighten it out. Normally we think of Padmakara, Guru Rinpoche, as a Nirmanakaya, like Barway Dorje, and certainly Barway Dorje is an emanation of Padmakara. But here it's the inseparability of Terchen Barway Dorje and Guru Rinpoche, Padmakara, in the form of Vajracharya, and that's why it's called Sambhogakaya Padmakara. So therefore, the next line says, he holds a Vajra and bell and sits in the Sattvasana of, and the translation incorrectly says great bliss. Apparently, I misread the text, because Lama's text, which is a better edition than the one I was working from, says not great bliss, but bliss emptiness. So if you're working from a text that's your copy, please amend with my apologies as usual. Those of you who've been taking these teachings over the years are used to this by now. Please amend your text permanently. Change it from great bliss to bliss-emptiness or bliss/emptiness, whatever you prefer. Now, he holds a Vajra and bell and sits in the Sattvasana of bliss-emptiness. That means several things. His legs aren't fully crossed. They're in the bodhisattva posture, which here represents bliss-emptiness, which can also be represented by fully crossed legs, but not here. He's holding the Vajra and bell, and Lama said he has the Sambhogakaya appearance, so he's wearing the robes and jewelry that Vajradhara normally wears, and he's blue. I asked, is he blue or pink? And he said he's blue. So it's Terchen Barway Dorje, our root guru, inseparable from Guru Rinpoche in the form of Vajradhara. And it says, in nature, he is all root and lineage gurus and yidams. So because all Buddhas are one in the expanse of wisdom, you remind yourself, he therefore is all-inclusive. This single figure embodies all Buddhas, all gurus, and therefore all yidams. He is Vajradhara, who embodies them all, amidst an expanse of vibrant rainbow light to indicate that he embodies the five wisdoms and rays of blessing. He is vividly clear, appearance emptiness like a water moon. And Lama said that when we visualize the guru in this case, as usual, it's important to reflect upon the fact that the vividness of his appearance, the image of the Guru, in no way contradicts its emptiness of substantial reality. In fact, the appearance of the Guru in this way is possible because it is, or he is, empty of substantial reality. And so that completes the first part of the second part, which is the initial visualization of the Guru's form. And I don't know where he went. And that he really didn't say. I said that. You want it up or away?
More to the corner of your mouth. Feel the little, yeah, there you go.
Is that better? Okay. You okay? Yeah. lovely. Ah.
Can't forget my pin.
Nga kopa na pure. Chiri shona nga pe ringbochi kale shedo. Then chiri pasonang. I said, I mean, if he's sitting there waiting, then I take it slow and go on and on and on and on. If he leaves the room thinking he has time, then I rush through it.
Then Lama Kain and so Jerem Gon and Nandong Joda Nandong Choda Tower Sunday Yateke, so Dada Danzing the Dinzing Loss Yate, Pa so Zobo de la Patada, Kipan Zambolo Chok Chimbo, dancing Tata Nazo Kareris of Pombo, the Nazo Pombo, the Tata. Camp to ding upon the Tanga Sola Mambo, Tela Samnaton, take care zo, and take care zo, gorite, Tela Danzan Hok Kimbo Kilder, Te the Park Kale Hindokari, Te T certain as a Jeram Gasak Gomyata, Pombo Pa, the Danzan Hiaki, the Jeram Gasak Gomyata, Te the Lama Gomna, Nagetona, Tonkin, Nandong Yemi Lama Go Zeland, the Nandong Yemi. Ngopo chuni ka long de radio le ko manze nga zo ge da lo da danzen de dinze trabdi le o ma re da te kale lam ka so ba ye do ma ni te ko trabdi o de da cho dan charam na ge nga zo jin re le tin ne cho ko na jin re tin ne cha ba chan ro ko le ri jin de pa jar cha de cho ko na cho da pa tham ro ko le Nazo di serta lam jam kapso lama gona yanda sozo gona yanda te tindru che gonda jina te ke salam jo nyoryata te ke ngaso danjang lo de pha heng ko danjang lo de hek cha nga chon rek cha le de sang je de da te pha hek ro me wi ngaso pe kable nyang de de da te la kable nyang te pha hek cha de denjang heng do le denjang hek cha de nyenjang lo ma nyenjang lo mi sa de chuko go tene Langer Sartalri, Canton Mombalo, Don, Romikej Sergelenda, Tene Sartalri. These are the same thing over the Hakond, Lamon over the Lama Daran say meet upon dinner quality. These are the thing Lama Salam Jotsarwa. These are the Lama the Gona and so Kare Gona and Nando Yemi, Kangan the Tesa some tongue Topgyal, San Debjeti taught in a Gon Topgyal. Gomto, Yang Gom Jina, Tenite Gomte, Gomdo, Lamsa, Hakolander, Lamsa, Hakondu, Tening Hagan, so hard a Gondu, Teni Hima Himanda, Juma Hiwanda. That teacups at Teni Lama, teacups a Lama Deba Hokembo Jankore. By Hokembo, Gani Jet Hamo, Teni Tinyamjik the Jes, Chona Lo Tets again, Gaps Lama Deba again. Tepa de Juma Hiwa Tepa Janko. Tatanga so Tepa de days are fixing the days are so Namtor Jepa Tepa Yondo Hima in Gare Tepa and then Tepan Dobani and Nordi Hima in Gare. Young Tendu. Teacups Tepa Jan, Tepa Teta. Teacups on Rodol Hingeri Jan, Teni, tu nayan gera me bar jen ko ta te chora ngal yen ngal yo pa de chong ngai ko ma zo yen da ni chom be da zo wa ne star pa le wa ma re nga yen ngal yo pa de cho ngai ko le wu de cho khan ko ti ni de khan de ta te ta tu nayan sa te ke inject ko ma re Teni di kapsa ta lama la ngone deba hyok chimbor kien ko ta te je ko le nga so di tap hyubin da ko le ten de lama gom ju de zo ta te re.
Now, the reason why it is so important to imagine the form of the Guru here as described in that last line, he is vividly clear, appearance emptiness like a water moon, is that any visualization or imagination of pure reality that we engage in, whether it is Guruyoga, as in this case, or generation stage practice, imagining the form of a yidam, needs to be done this way, seen as the non-duality of appearance and emptiness. And the reason for this is that this is how these images serve to reverse or counteract our fixation on apparent reality. Because they enable us through progressive familiarity, which is why the repetitive practice is needed. They enable us through progressive familiarity to realize that this is in fact the nature of all appearances. It is not the case that we imagine the Guru's form as appearance emptiness, the Yidam's form as appearance emptiness, but continue to regard the ordinary reality we experience as solid and real. The unreality of the form of the Guru and the Yidam is a way of beginning to experience and recognize the unreality of all appearances. If these visualized forms did not give us a clue to or a way to understand the true nature of appearances as they already are, then they would simply be acts of imagination and would lead to nothing. But that's not what they are. This actually goes to the character of our suffering. We suffer because we think things are solid and permanent. When things are unpleasant, we suffer because we think they are solid and lasting and permanent. And when things are pleasant, we suffer because we become attached to their solid permanence, which they don't have. In either case, it is our fixation on solidity and permanence that betrays us, because it's incorrect. Nothing is solid. Nothing is permanent. When we learn that, in the analogy Lama used, ice is really just water, so to speak, that it's going to melt when conditions change. When we, in that way, destroy our fixation on the solidity of apparent reality, that in itself is awakening. It's not the case that when we break through that barrier, then we have to crank up or develop some kind of new wisdom. The removal of that barrier, the removal of that misperception, the the correction of that mistake is all that is necessary. Nothing beyond that is needed. In the context of Guruyoga, for example, Lama said, it is as that barrier becomes more and more flimsy, as the sense of solidity and therefore dualism and therefore separation, as all of this starts to break down or wear out, you begin to really experience the mixing of your mind and the mind of your Guru. Ultimately, the non-duality of your mind and the mind of your Guru, and the non-duality of appearances and emptiness, and the non-duality of the minds of different Buddhas, these are just different ways of putting the same thing. As you become familiar with this, through the reinforcement of repeated practice, eventually, as that barrier breaks down, your faith in your Guru will change. Up to that point, you will have had faith, sure, otherwise you wouldn't have been doing the practice of Guruyoga. But at some point, Lama said, from what I can tell, he said, at some point, you'll break through something and you'll realize that all of your faith up to that point was somewhat contrived. It was not useless. It got you there, but you've outgrown it. It was somewhat contrived. It may even, in fact, he said, have been ambitious attachment. So eventually that changes, and this is one of the benefits of imagining the form of the Guru in repeated practice, and in particular of imagining the Guru's form as the unity of appearance and emptiness.
Oh, that's that. The genius around the bottom to you go in your. Then it did our Lama day. To some Sanje, that the Sora country that got it is, it's a the Tambongaranga Lama, the Master part, the Yang, Sarmachi part, the Yang, the Yang Yando, Gom Yang and the Sarpo, Sepor, Gom the Tati, Jiteni, to some Sanje, Lama Rumboji, Zumi Muta, Bujukorne, Loti, Jekoni, the Sora and the Togji Zona, Daju Singi, Lo, Son, that take your Dawateke. Lama Topgyal Korja Soranda called it. Tangaso Garela, Nipa Daya, Yori, Laman Singa, Garela, Lama, the Sondep Samji Chokori, Gare Teri, Tenite, and Dema Tata Tusum Jesanje Tamji Jintipong Owote, so Zava Lama, Terchen Barway Dorje, Dorje Chanda, Yerme Batin, Gurumboje, the Yerme Patela, some of Tonyo Patel, Lama Rumboches, Rumbojes Seriater, Gundu Norva Kasi. Sorwa tapa den jungju yoba de la nga so ge rumboche sariya ge mai ta ya da rumboche sariya de la de lama de tu sam sanji dani ji hindu de la nga so ge sorwa kare tap kare hyuna nga so den jungju yoba jungju ko yoba de na yin ge de ni za chenbo re la nga so ge nguzong yoba san na rumboche zo ta de sin ta ko le rumboche zumi mu ta bu sorwa de zu de me pa zumi sen na ko pur mata chane lomba tongba na ludu na ta ko zut me ba ke ta ke jan bu ko ro ta den ro nga so se ba khamsong khor chadom me na gi me ma mar jo romya ga nam na gi ta nga so dokja hi na din na gi la nga so ta ta them de o de nga so jin re la tin Jin re la tin jin de chanda tata kong de hyuba na yi jin de chanda ke jik teni la sang yen ro kor de jin de dharma tam ne pe kable khawa re nga so nam to de la dharma tam ne zumi zut me pa ke ta mu ta po gon lama la dem de yi chi chi mu de na ne de pa na ne de pa na ba sam ji na ne yi chi chi de pa tem bo re di yi chi chi de pa tim mu ke zut me pa re ke Trapo you corner, Lama the tent of Tepata Muruna, Lama took you salam Jori, the Lama got talked in Guruyoga. Lama Tela Lama nguso yo yu janda, nguso yo mi janda. Lama tila yo janda, tila mi janda. Choran solo debata na mu na lama tila yo pa na yiri. Tengone chorna ngarang la je taro. Lama de so de lama de tin do de chik cha hobe na yin de lama de nga ge chik seng thong la yu samne ra ke sem de la pe nu pa ta top ta chik hi ma hi wa na yira ke tundruke chada koda lama lan darwa namya mado samne ra de hi go na hi ma hi wa di na yin ra ke cha jo o sa ri mu ta bu de ni ju ko na lama ge te Lama Topgyal nyereng mi sayade oho samari yu korne Kunzang lama ta la nga so la Treasury gade na Treasury de Tondang lama la tu namyan Treasury samari ngone o samari nga so gom nyamni sina keje ha ko ndo jesar Tondang lama de la namyan Treasury samari Kunzang lama de nga so ma ta mana gire ko ndando kaleri nya sai changma hyando kaleri madabari changma sachai la ka mari nya sai hyando kaleri lama yan de ndo kaleri khata ka boz phemneri sachai ke yo ro ji de tin byo tom tha re nya ma re la phu de ji pheli de la phem ro de 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 Kunzang lama de re Tondang lama de namya so semju lo sari sora ya bo de thamna yu kon Loti Jikchoni the Soran, Loti the Terry Jikcho, Lama Chena Chibogan Chosi, Yin ala Kayamugos. The Sanjeri, the Sanje Jikirin, the Sanje Ninirin, the Sanje Sumsumrin, the Trop Jikirin, the Trop Mo Jikirin, Trop Pomon Sinha, Yadon Trumpum Trade Juditi, Lama Chena Chibo Madon ala Mugo, Samneraga, Dendrike Lotina, Lama di Salam Jokori, Lama Dega Denico, Loti Loma Dela. Rangi ko tela dazu yinda ni la dani ni da nyereng da yo ma re de ko temdre ge de za chia cha da ko le za chia ga re de temdre no ba de hyok chen bo ro nga zo temdre tin jing ren jong se ya de be hyok chen bo re tin jing ren jong ma la ba chung ga yo ba ma yin so song do de la dom so bon lo tin jong se ya de be ke chen bo re de rangi ko de cha do le la ma ma ze nga zo ma yinda ge de na o ko de ko ge lo ma za che hyu ri la ko ge ko neng ze wa che hyu ri sam ne ge ma yinda ge tong na na o re de den zhu xiang ma re la man den den la ma la de ba chi ya de hyok chen bo la ma za jin de la ma lo chin chan de de ko ran zo la di nu de ba ge nu ba de wo ne nu ba de ge ge do ko de re nu ba de ge ko den zhu xian ne lo di ji cho sing an de ji bo ge cho ji cho jar bo ji hyu gun zhe Ndek cho samne ge ni de teni soran de go le ze je de yin me din ye me din yo me din ndi ya dan ndi lama ndi khan ro ndi chu jong zo le sam no ma dong ne tham ji de pong wo de som san jin de pong wo ngai lama je pon de khan ro chu jong tham jin de pong yadam tham jin de pong wo lama ngai lama je pon de yin samne re ge lo di je cho go ne sora tam na de le ja salap me chimbo bawa na giri neba lep ko le den ni do sorande thugji zong ki daju senjelo nga thugji zong ro chi dag ju la senjel lab do source ta den do choran da loti ki cho na lama la thugji zong che do bu go ma rang ye ko automatic lama ke thugji ji sen zen senjel lab do ko le den de la bu go ma re de ko tem re tin jong ri senjel lo senjel thugji zong daju senjel lo den de yang sorande 마치 버더 양양 소원데 대바다나 지 마용거도 소원데 라마라 대바 요세야데 나조 그 직딩 그 뭐가 뽐보도 요보나게 젠커나게 그 삼나 동니를 말이 라마라 소원데 라마라 토기 세탐나 소소의 캡상 라까 라마 토기 용데 젠데 라메 두 남에 젠커윈 요보 요모 윈도 말이 남야 라마 근당아랑 그 요보 당아랑 그 요모에 등에 컨트롤 삼니 근데 히 짜와니니 요 말이 Tendruke yuna de lama ke san la to mari tendro mari lama de ke ngone chane ke de se pa khamsong khoren dam te ni than temba da simji ri la phi tho de nge zo yo sam ne ke lama khorang ke danjai rangdo yibsi ke lo de chan loma de zewa chenbo we de tendruke jong ko de de ke lama loma ni ba da temre tendro deng do de tendruke ke machi par de yang soran de Lama la sorande, tu namya lama la sorande kore. Gam yapo lana masong ti tsab tswa namdo mamba jeso na lamsa lama la sorande bina. Lamsa de rikpa tangsangi Now, Namtoto Gani Jarti Hamoli, Gani Jorti Hamoli with the Tindriki Chajor, Lama la, so on the bin. Lama Tila Yomari, the Lama Tujitek, then is out there, and Gurumbo Jagas, Sondo, Tenagiri, Tebatin, Pemio Gonyarius, Gohal Yardiori, Teanagiga, go Lama to the Tengoni, Tundro Sari, then the Tundriki stars around there, Tamamon.
The second part of the main practice, which is the main part of the main practice, in that it is what you repeat for the duration of the session, is the 4-line prayer to the Guru, Buddha of the 3 times, and so forth, down to bless my being. And this has 2 aspects. You can think of it as prayer in the sense of petition, asking for something. But also, Lama said it's something of an appeal or exhortation as though you are trying to appeal to the Guru's compassion, exhort the Guru's compassion. As we'll see, the Guru's compassion is already fully operative. But by taking the step of appealing to it, you open yourself to the Guru's blessing. Now, first of all, the first line refers to the Guru as Buddha of the 3 times. Now, you can think of this as all Buddhas of the 3 times in one, or a Buddha who embodies all Buddhas of the 3 times. It's the same thing. The meaning of this is what was described earlier, that the Guru, as a fully awakened Buddha, is inseparable from, or embodies, all other Buddhas, all Buddhas of the past, all Buddhas of the present, and all Buddhas of the future. It's not like they're separate Buddhas, like if you pray to the Guru, then you have to pray to Buddha Shakyamuni separately, and you have to pray to Maitreya, the next Buddha separately, and you have to pray to Dipankara, the previous Buddha, separately. When you pray to the Guru, because the Guru is Dipankara, the Guru is Shakyamuni, the Guru is Maitreya, all of those Buddhas' minds are present, inseparable from the Guru's mind, then you are automatically, when you pray to the Guru, with the recognition that the Guru is the embodiment of all Buddhas of the 3 times, you are automatically, therefore, praying to all Buddhas of the 3 times. Another implication of calling the Guru Buddha of the 3 times is that he has, although he manifests in this world at this time as a Guru, a Vidyadhara, in many realms in the past, he has appeared as a perfect Buddha, no different from Buddha Shakyamuni. In many other realms right now, he is appearing as a perfect Buddha, no different from Buddha Shakyamuni. And many times in the future, he will appear as a perfect Buddha. For example, in the sutra on this good kalpa, it specifically mentions that the being we call Terchen Barway Dorje will be either the 246th or 247th of the 1,000 Buddhas of this kalpa. So that's the first phrase, Buddha of the 3 times. Then precious Guru. Well, we use this term precious, Rinpoche, a lot, Lama said. We use it in the second person. We address our teacher as Rinpoche. We use it in the third person. We refer to our teacher as Lama Rinpoche, Bardo Rinpoche, and so on. Well, why? Is this just nice, affectionate? Is it just pretty speech? No. Because the Guru is a wish-fulfilling jewel. The most precious things, the definition of the word precious, is a perfect jewel. And among all jewels, the ultimate jewel is a jewel that can grant all wishes. That is the Guru. Because it is the Guru who bestows upon you, through your devotion and his compassion, everything you want. Because the only way to get everything you want is to become perfectly awakened. And the only way to become perfectly awakened is to receive your Guru's blessing. Therefore, your Guru is the wish-fulfilling jewel. It's pretty simple. It's almost mathematical. And then you say, I am stirred by unbearably strong devotion. Well, stirred and strong devotion and so forth are clear. Lama took time, however, to investigate what do we mean here by unbearably. It doesn't, sometimes when we say unbearably strong devotion, we mean I can't sit still, I have to do something, I can't bear it. Lama said it means much more than that here. It means there is an aspect of desperation. There is an aspect of crisis, of immediate need. So it's a little bit like, he said, a child, a hurt child, calling to their mother. When a hurt child calls their mother, they're not thinking, well, I can't think of anything else to do, I might as well call my mother. They're desperate. It's immediate. It's an emergency. Whether it's a real emergency or not, that child at that moment feels that it is. That's the attitude of unbearably strong devotion. You may not be in a state of immediate crisis, but your need to stop suffering, your need to let go of delusion, your need to be to achieve what you are capable of, that is an emergency at every moment. Because at every moment, if we had the choice, if I could just press a button and make all of this samsara stop forever, would I do it? None of us would say no, we'd all do it. Well, that's what supplication to the Guru is. It is that button. When you pray to the Guru, it is an emergency because right now you can end it all forever. And to the extent that your devotion is sincere and desperate, to that extent will pressing that button, so to speak, actually be effective. Now, in this regard, we have to bring to mind the fact that there is no distance, Lama said, between us and our Guru. When our Guru is alive, there may be physical distance. They may be on another continent, in another town, in another room, whatever. But whether they are alive or not, in reality, their wisdom mind is all pervasive because they have broken down the barrier of delusion that causes us to misperceive our minds as limited and subject to spatial locality. Because they have broken that down, the true ultimate Guru, whether they are physically alive at the moment or not, the true ultimate Guru is always with us. They are omnipresent. They are everywhere. Therefore, whether we know it or not, they are always there. So, we are actually already inseparable from the Guru. It's not that we're really, Lama said, trying to accomplish inseparability from the Guru. we're simply trying to reveal to ourselves, through it being proved in experience, that our mind and the Guru are inseparable. And that is a function, he said, of tendril or interdependence. The interdependence of devotion, in this case, is that it is introducing devotion into this situation. It is our act of devotion that proves to us in experience the pre-existing inseparability of our mind and that of the Guru. Therefore, ultimately, he said, we are praying to the Guru of absolute truth, the Guru who is beyond appearance and departure. The Guru of relative truth will appear to us, since they are an appearance and relative truth, be born, live, and pass away. We've experienced that. We may have experienced that thousands and thousands of times. But in spite of that, the actual Guru, what the Guru really is, beyond our limited perception of them, the Guru in absolute truth, the Guru of absolute truth, has no appearance or departure. He's not only beyond near and far, therefore, they are also beyond any kind of separation. They're beyond not only space, but also time. So that is what's meant by I am stirred by unbearably strong devotion. Now the third line, there's an issue with my translation of it. So I'm going to give you an alternative. And I made the choice I made because some people were chanting some of this material in English, and it had to be chantable. But I'll explain as we go through it. The third line in the translation you have says, I pray to you, that part's fine, the one in whom I place all my trust. The problem is with my criticism of the translation here is that the Tibetan, the one in whom I place all my trust, which is much shorter even than that, contains much more meaning. Lote chikcho. Lo means usually your intellect, but in this case it means your mind, your attitude. Te is entrustment. But chikcho is much more than the one. It means the all-sufficient one. But all-sufficient is very long in English. Chok is much shorter than all-sufficient. It's one syllable over 4. So sometimes when people chant in English, because here this is something you would repeat again and again, if it comes out too long, then it becomes a little bit like you're sentenced to an extra jail term because of your language. You know, Tibetans only have to chant 7 syllables and you have to chant 35, which seems unfair. But I'll give you an alternate translation that you should probably write into your text if you're using your own copy, which is instead of, I pray to you, the one in whom I place all my trust, at least understand that an alternate way of translating it would be, I pray to you, the all-sufficient one, to whom I entrust myself. So basically what's left out here is the concept of all-sufficient, which unfortunately is, in a sense, as Lama explained it at least, kind of the most important idea in the whole line. You're only visualizing one figure here. Your Guru, Terchen Barway Dorje, inseparable from Guru Rinpoche in the form of Vajracharya. For that to be effective, you have to have the belief that your Guru is all-inclusive and all-sufficient. So all-sufficient here, Lama said, means that there is no other Guru who is not included within him. There are no Buddhas or Bodhisattvas who are not included within him. There are no Yidams, Dakinis, or Dharma protectors who are not included within him. If you believe, and to the extent that you believe, that your Guru really is the embodiment of all of the three roots and all of the three jewels, then to that same extent will supplication of your Guru alone accomplish the benefits, the effects, and bring the blessings of all other practices. That's what you want. In short, Lama said, to really receive the Guru's blessing in the fullest sense, you have to have an attitude of unreserved entrustment. Not only unreserved in how much of yourself you are entrusting to them, not only in that you're entrusting all of your own well-being, but unreserved in the further sense that you recognize that there is no one else, no one outside the Guru to whom you need to look for help. That your Guru, that single person, so to speak, contains and transmits all of the blessings of all Gurus, all of the siddhis granted by any and all yidams, all of the activity and interdependence granted by dakinis and dharmapalas. Only if you realize that your Guru embodies all of that do you have what is the intended attitude of unreserved entrustment. And then the fourth and final line, hold me with your compassion and bless my being. This is the appeal. Lama said when I divided it into prayer and appeal, the appeal is hold me with your compassion. In fact, you're asking for something he's already doing and will obviously be manifestly doing, because being held by, being blessed by your Guru's compassion will obviously be automatic if you entrust yourself. That is to say, the Guru's compassion is ubiquitous. If you entrust yourself, you see it. It is revealed to you. It is manifest to you. And if it is manifest to you, then that is what we call being held by your compassion. So in a sense, he said, this fourth line is kind of almost unnecessary. But it's not really unnecessary because you're clarifying what you were asking for in the previous lines. Now, with regard to this attitude of entrustment and devotion, Lama said, you need to understand that here you are not relating to your Guru as an oppressor. Sometimes people have the attitude that the Guru is a figure of authority, like a feudal lord, or in modern terms, like your boss, like your local, highest local official or regional official, or the head of the company you work for, something like that. The Guru is none of those things. When we use the term Lord, Venerable Lord Guru, we don't mean Lord in the feudal sense. The Guru is not your oppressor. Your relationship with the Guru has nothing to do, actually, with helping or benefiting the Guru. The Guru is, in fact, your benefactor. Your devotion for the Guru is not because you owe the Guru loyalty or fealty or any of that. Your devotion for the Guru is because devotion frees you. Mixing your mind with the mind of your Guru frees you. So therefore, we can use prayer to the Guru on the spot. We should always pray to the Guru from the time we begin until the time we achieve perfect awakening. But especially, we can use it when, Lama said, we're falling apart. When you find yourself beset by agitated thinking, overcome either by external circumstances or your own thoughts, if you pray to the Guru with full, unreserved entrustment, those thoughts will suddenly disappear. You won't know where they've gone. And this is why Guru Rinpoche famously said, "For all who have faith in me, I am sleeping right outside their door."
Oh, there it. That tendrike ka topa te gadike ke ni ris samna gom yamli sen ke kare lama la so so ngone nyamlin yapo si gom yapo jatap che che gom yapo jatap nyamlin nyamar re gyanda gom yapo jatap na teni lo yapo gom yapo jatap gom sarya te nga so ka ta jeong ka main ri 다들 검는 드라마다 자조들이 오늘 내로가 따와래 라면데니 ngoptu khyondo ta mangche kyu ngoptu khyomanyo ne oma da zoba chimbo khasa hi chalare ngoptu thamdo ga di tho tini tai nyamne bi gi na di tho din nyamne yapor chin thamna tene lama la ko debata na mu khyo chimbo chen jo de temen ta ta nga so debata na ri ji de nga lama deba u je na gare namdo gi chen de ko yo khil mare ten de khyo chimbo re chi digdab de taran yanda ngaso parchi chekyu digdab de taran yanda lama gi ju ki sinjalam de digdab de taran yanda teba mu che leb jo de te and ba ta da gambo pa Milarepa ka gambo pa la song do nam ye mginga la jo sanje kin de khere choran leb ju di kap so choba chong de tu yen se semje ki ton de di kap so ta khong ta wa to de ta yana Milarepa de khong ta wa to mari jo ga na ta wa to de raba hyad chi chawan da wa de ta di kap so la njara me pa de nyom ngo wa de di kap so to ro ko de ta di pa de nyamni ya por ji se gom jobs 되네 김팡바르가 가게 당화데 다른 저 동미서 김팡바르가 당화데 디값을 동으로 건거 급동으로 급동이 값을 급대 되긴 참말이 냠린 더거리리 저 검접 독신기는 검접라 되니 전화나 따와 동인데 파긴가다 산진의 진도 길을 램내려 디값을 샘지게 동접을 접접거리 송거들이 다다 가서가 라마 그 다로마 간다고다 가다 라마 저리 맨쳤다 저리 오마리데 제 로마의 춘르히 가비 히 컨더세드 핀르히라 모토리레 착보 만다린다 거디 다다서데 다서데 다데 가레세나 소소게 냠니히라시 더고 말이 되게 혁천보레 내동 천보레 경도 거리 로마라 핀다거나 로마를 핀다야라 라마데 코란가 오네 사람의 용디 하장 야보를 검냠니 야보해 제제도 라마 코란의 라마로 오래 되라 소란담나 사람 라마 사람 적 터바리라 되네 되니데 살라 bomba 강조 처때 긴다라 파로 촉초레 고호들이 되다 대세마답데 되 로마라 사람 적 못하려 내동 종거들이 해나 라마 기보게 내동 말이요 던져서도 라마 코나족을 야보를 냠니 세고 사마리 삼네 양 띵고를 파기나 라마 기보 말이 로마라 내동이 라메 강송바데 냠니시 라메 강송바데 제제도 검탐나 디트치다 람다게 용데 럼바겐데 제네 거저 운다데 향는 저들이 또바데 댕니 저 좋은 저들이 댕데 당가서 참마게 랑이니까게 리 ngazo 참마게 ngazo 추도 탐지 참마게 라마 탐지가 강성 요바다서 된 냠니 혁천보를 시탐나 되니 라마라 소라야 본답제 제데 냠니 야보를 시탐나 되니 된르게 영조 호사리 어테 된르게 손답라 sombar hyos tante.
Now, when it's said that devoted prayer to your Guru will cause all your agitated thoughts to vanish on the spot, you may say, well, when? When is that going to happen? When am I going to get to the point where that works? And the answer is, when you are practicing enough. The word meditation, which is what I'm, referring to when I say practice here, in Tibetan is very much etymologically related to the word for familiarization. Getting used to something, getting to know something. And so when it's said practice more, or you haven't practiced enough for this to happen, it means basically you don't know yourself well enough. You aren't familiar enough with your own mind. And that familiarization, that process of familiarization is irreplaceable. Whoever we are, we have to take the time, or put the time in, to get used to meditation, to become familiar with it. At the same time, Lama said the word meditation, of course, is very generic. There are all kinds of things that we could call meditation. Principally what I'm talking about here is the kind of meditation that one can engage in after receiving the pointing out instruction. And since most of you have received that because you are involved to varying degrees and in various ways with the practice of Dzogchen in this community, then you've definitely received it. And then once you've received that pointing out instruction and know how, for the first time, really to meditate, as we use the term, then you can, on that basis, through familiarization with the practice of meditation, gradually cultivate a faith and devotion and achieve this state that I described earlier, where simple prayer to the Guru will pacify agitation. However, realistically speaking, we all of us, no matter who we are, have to deal with our own individual burden of previous wrongdoing and veils or obscurations, dikpa and drikpa. And we may not remember everything we've done in previous lives. We may not even remember all the bad things we've done in this life. But we can infer our degree of obscuration by our degree of doubt and uncertainty. Especially if someone has received the pointing out instruction and knows how to meditate, and subsequently, while practicing and cultivating faith and devotion, continues to be plagued by doubt. That is a sign of the need that is a sign that there remains wrongdoing and obscurations to be purified. But even if you find yourself in that position, and to some extent Lama said we're all in that position, even if you find yourself in that position, don't berate yourself. Because even the greatest masters of history have still had some kind of process of purification to go through. For example, when Lord Gampopa was saying goodbye to his guru, Jetsun Milarepa, and seeing him for the last time, he asked Milarepa a question. Now understand the context. Gampopa had already, beyond any question, and to say the least, realized the view. He had definite realization. But he asked Milarepa a question. He said, at what point in the future will it be appropriate for me to accept disciples? And Milarepa said, at some point in the future, you are going to have an entirely different perception of this old man, speaking of himself, than you do now. At some point, you're all of a sudden going to see me as a perfect Buddha. Now understand the context of this. Gampopa was already realized. He was already realized to a degree that would be difficult for us to appreciate. And he already had tremendous devotion by normal standards, tremendous devotion for Milarepa. But there was still a process of further practice he had to go through. And when he went through that process and purified these remaining very subtle, in Gampopa's case, very subtle, essentially the habitual obscuration, the bare remains of the cognitive obscuration and so on. When he purified that, even his previous devotion to Milarepa, which would be unimaginably, magically wonderful to us, seemed like nothing to him. And his perception of Milarepa at that moment went beyond anything even Gampopa himself could have imagined before. It was also on this occasion that Jetsun Milarepa said to Lord Gampopa, I have one final instruction, but I hesitate to give it to you because it's so profound. It's so secret. I've given it to no one. And although you are my destined and chosen heart son, I fear I dare not even give it to you. Well, Gampopa supplicated and prayed and asked, and Milarepa did. He lifted the back of his shoddy single robe and showed that his buttocks were calloused. His buttocks were as hard as the soles of the feet of somebody, a manual laborer who works without shoes. And his message was, sit, practice. The secret of secrets is practice. Now, if Milarepa needed to make that point to Lord Gampopa, surely we should not be averse to or resent having that same point made to us. None of us is superior to Gampopa. Therefore, we all need to practice. And being told that we need to practice, being told that our doubts are the display of our remaining obscurations, is not berating us. It is not an insult. Milarepa was not insulting Gampopa. But if we want to really achieve the full result of Guru Yoga, the full result of meditation, ultimately the same result, we must continue to practice and wear through, wear out, exhaust, eradicate, whatever you want to put it, our remaining obscurations. Speaking of myself, Lama said, I have to look at my own frailties or failings and recognize that it is, I suppose, a lack of accomplishment on my part that makes me unable to simply pour realization into you, simply shock you out of delusion, presto, like magic. My inability to do that, I take it, must result from my own, from the incompleteness of my own process. At the same time, though, we can't simply do nothing and blame our teachers. We can't simply say, well, meditation would be easier for me if I had a better Lama. It doesn't really work that way. Regardless of how good your Lama is, you're still going to have to practice. There's never been a better student than Gyamtso, and there's never been a better guru than Milarepa. It just hasn't happened. And Gyamtso still needed to practice. So the only way that we can achieve the results of supplication to the Guru, prayer to the Guru, the only way we can eradicate all doubts and all of our difficulties is through practice. So that's the second part of the practice, prayer to the Guru.
Oh, that's a daily. Tintanida, Sabji Sumbara de Lama Uyoda Wangiri, then the Salab Zebzembara Lama go, Mish, Dorji Dutsu, Lukang, got some drama, Dremni, Ta. Why you top your young and yours some psychiatry that is a lot in the Sakani de Korean Sindra Jargando, Salas and Barba Lamako, in Zebzen Barba, Zebzen Karakambara, Tongi Tawa, Nelo Tawa, Jaganda, Tot San, Tendrichek, Zezen with and Barwakela, Barwakela Lama. Yambala Lama goes on the Tendrika inside de la Tinitela, so mood una, Lama cocker, Lama tok tortocris, Lama told the tortocor, Gongjuga toba de Lin tocoli, Gongjuga toba, Lama Gongjuga toba de la Dorjeta and Jorameba, Yomjeta Tarva, Namian Jorameba, Ponjormeba, Tendrika la Nelogatawa, the Dorjire la Peja, the Dorji. Ti Hyogona, Ti Dorje, the Hyogona, Le Lawaka Soga, Yoga make a yacht of Kamari, Tenda Muta, Tepa, the Mu Kimboina, take a yacht, then Sembul son Rita Gallery, Sozoga Sembula, Lamatopa, or the T certa, Mugi, Dorji, Dutsi choose, Dutsi chote, Ma, the Lama the wood hyun, but I take up the Lama wood hyun. Lama Wuthun, the go Dotit and Mariapana Yiga, Tene Sozo Jonema, Hyund, Luch Kanang Tamji, Temse, Kanso Sambak and the Key on the Dorji Dutsi Chotek, Lobo Nantamji, Temse, County Samban the Yondu, take up so go some Tramata Tanda College. Nazola, Topa, Yula Machi, Parchi Chekute, go some Tramati. Go some the Tramata Tand, Lama took you juice, Tennis Tata, look at you, Agaju, Semji Jute, Senjalamne, Lunga is some, then Senjalamdu, Lunga is some, the Chanyang Drabatamji, Tandu, Tenny, go young at the Chandra then the Lukan, Lujagoni, Sabak Drabatamji. So you bought the Mazemba Limba, the Mazamba Jubangaga Goni, Zanda Trama, Sezong Anjava, Yata, Yija Gonita, and Napsenus and Lotang Azola Bay to Namia, Jurchutama telling Asoka Rangi, cái đợt bắt sắp chìm vào tao bảo sao đó có gì nè lúc cái tao thì miêu được để chỉ tô xong nó có ta thì bảo cha ra thì nhớ chắc có mà đấy tao thì lòng đó phải trốn được có rồi rồi chìm tao thì lòng đó phải trốn được thì bảo cha ra thì nhớ chắc có mà đấy thì bảo cha ra thì nhớ mà chỉ sao thì này drop để 처리 용야요 말이 되니 제사서 파 제다다 로르드 거르까나니 담보 차되거나 거르까볼 파만투도 거르나보데 참게 있는 른로들이 대나기라게 고성 그 드마다 드미다 고성 드마 드미 다네 되네 왕이다 왕이 톱 라마게 당가서 그 냠니 조다 되고 데로 왕이야 그 반바완다 송 상원다 토키랍제 완다 되니 연대 청왕 톱네 왕게 톱 저바게다 뎀지다 고섬 되니 그 추kolong 그 트고 오니 그 여대 응한테 결성 삼바게 되니 느끼 딩한테 되니 냠버교야리 냠버교지게 책대 되네 되니 예 경나는 마직 송도 딩참데 대살로야나 야본도 되니 드르게 삼노 동양양 드르게 삼노도나 되니 가서 롱아 이선지 드바 다른 게도 따왕 저 응한테 결하고 저들 대마 롱아 이선지 드바 마도 따와 또 서야 돼 오늘 배 하장 깔래 가버리 드바 체휴 더 바치 체휴 등에서 득득 미잖아 가서 득득 켐보리 득득 켐보 유부터라 토민 사비 득득 유부터라 다동 가서 그 사도 사기 말이 가서 뒤나야 유튜브 동토면도 사도 그 사건도 luja goni sa ko le ngaga goni sa ko le chain raman rag mathama nu harmazon symbol magewa madewa majiba chama zo yo ko le yi je goni ten nam san nu san hlapar to te nam san da nu san da logta te chok chen bo da te na ne logta te chok chen bo yo da mi te me che te ta te nam san da nu san da te ko da zan da chama te ko da ta te ko ga nga so magewa te ke 그 나야 파 장만져서 그 나야 참조 뭐요리 컨트롤 뭐만다 되게 좋은 거 가서 가서 대체 뭐를 히 장만져서 더는 가서 그 녀모 받아서 파 컨트롤 좋던데 되니 이히글론도 전도도 되니 거 따와디 니마를 얘기한다 따와디 야 젠판파리는 따와디 제사사다 제당당다 되니 녀모 받아봐 제 총총인데 따와디 야르젤은 더 사리마도 녀모가 따와디 제 뭐빵마다 된다고 삼노 도마다 저거 사마리 된다 달라마라 대바 무 쳔보를 째네 삼노 동동의 되게 저바 득득 효침보 다로 근데 왔다 디 삼노데 땅 거사리 되니 되게 왕기 직처들이 그 직처든 건데 연로 거사리 디 삼노 동 되니 딘 삼되니 조킨이마 책하게는 공부를 희견도 다데 제 등르는 녀원녀원들이 있어
녀베 말이야 도지색 당녀베 기서 라 제바 요다 심진 펜바다 마펜바게 제바 요다 카디시드라 다다데 되게 책 타마데 던자게 책 타마데 쿠싱은도 저와 쇼암치 성게연남 쿠싱은도 저와 인 성게 디던다 카레
왕기 탑지 그 연열 효선 모나모레
와라서 네 만남게 저도 저선 근데 다다 체레게 마 송도 내나테 지시나 이거 몸보동아
이노
도서 되네 데데 이게 야포말로
리 이노 에리라 이노 사바서라 이노
메메 나랑기 이노 세 종기 이노데 데 제법 만도데 나랑게된 직 소신 말로바게 춘 카시 도다
지금 보에 드마데 드라마 로히르 공예데 때문에 공예데 감예데 레라오 로히르 말이 지금 배 로히르
공예데 삼삼 로시게도 삼삼 록셰 삼나 마도 너게도 okay. So now we come to the third and final part of the main practice, which is divided into two sections. There is the final part of the liturgy, which is mixing your mind with the Guru's mind and receiving the four empowerments. And then there is the pointing out of the subsequent state or practice of meditation in the small print. The first line of this section says, "The Guru's body blazes with the splendor of blessing." Now, it's actually the Tibetan Zijin could be, you can think of it not as splendor of blessing, but just as splendor or magnificent splendor, blazes with magnificence. What is really being described here, Lama said, is that your image of the Guru seated above you blazes or becomes even more resplendent, even more magnificent, as a reflection of your emergent realization of emptiness, your emergent realization of non-duality. In other words, your transcendence of the barrier of apparent separation. Therefore, it continues, "He melts in the fire of my devotion." So the Guru's form becomes not only all the more resplendent, but the fire of your devotion for the Guru, in other words, your recognition of the non-separation of yourself and the Guru, causes the image of the Guru as separate to dissolve into you, to melt. So this is, actually, Lama says, we think of this dissolution as something fairly common, but here it is something of the ultimate profundity. It is called the melting of the Vajra body, the melting of the Guru's apparent separate existence, and the final ending of any sense of duality, any sense of separation, through the recognition of that nature that is your mind and the Guru's mind, inseparable. So what you are depicting or imagining here is in fact the final realization, which is the destruction of all remaining barriers between your mind and the Guru's mind, which here is depicted as the Guru's body blazing, melting in the fire of your devotion. Therefore, the Guru's body becomes, as it says, Vajra Amrita water, the water of empowerment, which fills your body. So you say, "He melts in the fire of my devotion, becoming Vajra Amrita water, he fills my body." In this case, the dissolving of the Guru into you and the four empowerments are not separated. They are the same thing. The Guru's body itself becomes the purifying and empowering Vajra Amrita of empowerment, which dissolves into you, melts into you, and fills your entire body. Now, what it does is remove any remaining obscurations. We've already seen that even subsequent to recognition and even realization, there can be further obscurations and veils to be purified. So therefore here, what the water of empowerment does is it says, "My 3 gates stains and my 2 obscurations or veils are purified." 3 gates stains here, Lama said, refers in general to the veils of our body, speech, and mind, but especially, he said, to the karmic imprint and negative effect and repercussions of our engagement in physical, verbal, and mental wrongdoing. Now, he went through the specific list of these twice. I'm going to leave it for the second time, because I know you don't like hearing these things. So, all of that is purified, and the two obscurations are purified as well. The two obscurations are the emotional obscuration, which is fixation on a self. That is the impediment to liberation from samsara. And the cognitive obscuration, which is fixation on anything. And that is not the impediment to liberation, but is the impediment to Buddhahood. So, for example, arhats purify the first, but not the second. So this blessing or empowerment by the Guru purifies both the emotional and the cognitive veil, thereby removing all obstacles or impediments to Buddhahood. I received the 4 empowerments. So in this way, all at once, through the filling of our entire body, all parts of our body, all at once, by the Amrita, that is the melted body of the Guru, we received the 4 empowerments: the body, the vase empowerment of body, the secret empowerment of speech, the knowledge, wisdom empowerment of mind, and the 4th empowerment of wisdom. And then the last line in the liturgy is, may the 4 bodies be revealed. So our aspiration is that as a result of this purification, this mixing of the minds, these 4 empowerments, all of these things are the same. They're all one process here. The 4 bodies, the Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya, Dharmakaya, and essence body or Svabhavikakaya be revealed. Now, here, at this point in the practice, you imagine this with the idea that this is depicting the final realization where your mind and the Guru's mind become inseparable and you achieve perfect awakening as a result. What prevents us from doing this right now? Why is there a process? Why is there a need, Lama posed the question, for us to go through a repetitive process of practicing meditation, practicing Guruyoga again and again and again for years? One can look at this different ways, but when push comes to shove, he said the biggest problem we have is wrongdoing. We talk a lot about veils and attitudes and fixation and so on, but really when it comes down to it, it really comes down to the problem of how we act, how we talk, and how we think. We don't know what we did in previous lives. We can infer that we came into this life because we came into this life as sentient beings and not Buddhas with a burden of previous wrongdoing. But not only have we not succeeded in removing that wrongdoing thus far, we're operating at a deficit. We tend to be, he said, constantly increasing our burden of wrongdoing. In other words, at the very least, we should be putting a stop to wrongdoing as a starting point for purifying our existing burden of previous wrongdoing. The problem is that while we make some effort through practice to purify our previous wrongdoing, we don't seem to be able to stop doing it. And this is where he went through the list the second time. So now we'll go through it.
Oh, that's a
No me,
Oh.
son.
Oh.
Oh, the kala. Mige wa chu re ne she go do. We kill. And that includes everything associated with killing. You know, physical violence, failing to protect others from physical violence, and this is animals as well as humans. We steal. We may not rob others at gunpoint, but we steal. We cut corners. We all know what I'm talking about. Our sex lives, let's not even go there. So, we engage in the three actions, three physical actions that are negative. In some way, we're still doing those. But much worse than that. Because those things, we at least we're starting to learn that these things, maybe I shouldn't. But what we do with our speech, and if you don't like what I'm saying, you can say that I made it up and it wasn't him. And you can ignore it. But he did say it. But if you want to tell yourselves he didn't say it, if you want to blame the translator, go ahead, I'm happy. I will risk that if it will leave you with the idea, maybe I can do better. We lie. We have all justifications for it, but we lie. We disparage others. We speak harshly. We gossip. And we're really good at justifying gossip. We speak harshly to others. And this is the worst thing, we create division. We foment division with our speech. And that's the worst thing because we always find excuses for it. We foment division. And then with our minds, and Lama said that as much as our behavior, verbal behavior is worse than our physical behavior, our mental behavior, which we think we can conceal from others. But you can't, not really. Our mental behavior is worse even than our verbal behavior. We bear malice. We do. We bear malice. We think it's okay to feel malice toward others. Wouldn't it be nice if such and such happened to such and such person? And I'm guiltless because I didn't do anything. It's just a thought. That's malice. That's not malice. What is malice? We covet that which is not ours. Every time we have a jealous thought, that's what we're doing. And worst of all, Lama said, so we're at the worst, the speech was worse than the body, and the mind is worse than the speech, and now this is the worst, is wrong views. So, we tend to, even as we attempt to purify, we tend to keep on accumulating wrongdoing through these 10 actions. So to summarize, he said, if you ask the question, why is this not working? Why am I not realized yet? The answer is probably because we have failed to ameliorate how we act, speak, and think.
There, that take your tinjo, the Lama would the Nyamjarang on the Gomja go there, that Gomjaga, the Lamanamjo, Tapan the Wanda Gora, lot of Lamanamjo Gori, the Gomjago, the Gom the Tessa Recon, and the song of the Yono, Gan Harikungjo Repa Tata was Tata Gang Dingo, the Lama would the Hyone, then the Samuel Luchiri, and Juma Taba Jumi Hiparaga, Taware Lam Gore. Ding over there, Namdog Partu Mayon, Ding on the Kang, Harwating on the Hyungjong, Chojing and the Jones, John, Mapju Soma, Rangers, Mapju Soma, the same corner over Tegar, Tola, Jogger, Yan Deuce, that year gong jaggery. Yamber Teso, member Sandep Sauce, Sandep Young Titola Mega Sandep, Namdog in the Partu Balasoba, Kang Charona, they Harwa Ding over the son of Di Sonking Campo Di Totane, Hon Gona, that Gontains on the Tapa Driver upon the best suppers on Gang Song Di Totane, Hon John Gomna, then Pacha Namdong in Bag Party, Choma, Tito, Toronto College, then Namdo Jack Jan, Di Jason, Rang, Telan Zambara, take a lyrics, Tito Josona, then Gom Parchin Rotari. They maziba ting on do they to two yuna, then anything on the urchon. They to two so some tangazo to two chimbo yomar, some corona or it sama, corona or to two tramoma, trambo, tranjang, keja, he gonna Jazok Gomyam de Sabovi, the Depa Sabo Jango Golizena. Tatu Jondo, Gelo Mawar, some read on the Yabo or Remato Jagge, Shokimbo seat, Topco Mari to two yomari. Then the Namdo. They to two and a thing undo, so on the goms. They let in the cake, Kaser Cares on the cake party, cake certa, Pondo attend, Lama the Muich Seata, Lama son de Sea, Konama to Yinka and Mugo, so Kaser Pondo, Mook on the Sabs, Lama the Museat. Mukati with a Lama Kujukanrella and Rombak son, Lama Kujukanrella, Mujin Yamama, and the Salapchi Chajam member, Semundala Nate in Zooson. Mu the pay, Kachimbo, Muka, Mu Rabla, Tower Rap, Yan Tabagi, Jet of Goro, Milarepa, Marpalo, Mu Chimbo, Teba Mu Chimbo, Lama Jason Katang, Jim Zilliparto, Jason Simmons, and Teba Mugaton, the Drub Dutse, Lucha, the Milarepa, Sangias, or Milarepa, a Kimari, Yinda Lai and the Seven Mari, Yinda Zamel, Yimban Seven Mari, Nakimari, Milarepa, Koranga, Tatang, a Kikaram, Mamani, Tindukin, Lady Jake told the Sangias or Sangian Roji, La Teba Mu Konaga Sangias on the real. Then the Mu Kona Sabson, that Teki, Guardian Love Mujins, Tate Congoloma Guardian Mujin, that Namjapa Kama Wanja Razo, Trihos on the corner Martin, Namjapa and Kong Namjapa and got it. Tambarwa Dorje, that Tim Barwa Dorje Homa Pomo Soin, the Conga. Gomtri Jabya Citella, Nyamtor Milirita, Namjo Pomo Chame or Miri, Tago Tendrika, Yamniji Janjaris and the Namjo Kamawanja Tugita, Barbadorji Tripa, Tonda Timber Hojes, George Hoso, then it take Terry, Tinjo Tinity gets a Sanjo Hoa, Taranga Terry or it at it. Di the Madaba Choye, Di the Madaba Doro. Doro.
Dore, you know.
The John the Tamando.
Oh, the checkboard, the Tessa Chuzu Chamber. Tessa Chuzu Chamber, Yana, the
Raptors under it.
Rotrosang, Sarpate.
Sapatere. Te la Madava Hasando.
Did the Ngomang, ne Dapor.
You count the Noma de Taro.
Noma de Taro.
The count the Madavano.
Rita.
Read ten on the
Ganza Shukjung, Rikpa. Near Jotsu Tadayana.
Chona the Rado.
Then, or take it.
Chona the
Okay.
Near Taku outside.
Lost.
Chona the
So I came to, in the small print that Lama just explained, a difference between what he was in the text, the new edition of the text. And I said, because sometimes I misread the text back then, because I was using an old, and he said, no, the old text is more reliable than this one. He said, actually, your translation is based on the correct text, not the, in this case, not what I corrected before. What I corrected before was wrong in my translation. This one isn't, because I thought
correct,
I got it wrong, but I didn't get it wrong for once. So now, if you look at your book, on the last line on page 237 and what's on page 238, which isn't much, is the concluding instructions. And this describes how to meditate after dissolving the body of the Guru into yourself. Well, first of all, the reason why this instruction occurs here, Lama said that when we dissolve after a session of intense devotion, cultivation of intense devotion through repeated prayer, when we dissolve the body of the Guru into ourselves, we experience something that we can't describe. Something for which we have no words. We don't even have concepts. So this brief instruction, pointing out instruction, explains or points out how to work with that, how to make use of that. By that means a temporary suspension of, or a gap in, our normal conceptual maintenance of delusion. First line says, view spontaneous awareness within whatever arises. So when you dissolve the image of the Guru, when the Guru dissolves into you, you don't stop experiencing. You're still aware. But you're not, that awareness is not something you've cranked up or something you've created or contrived. It's spontaneous, it's just there. In this case, spontaneous means just there, already there. And so you don't have any object of meditation. So instead of viewing or looking at anything else, let your awareness, which is already there, it's spontaneous, it's natural, let your awareness look at itself, experiences itself. And if the question for you arises, well, what kind of state do I have to be in to do that? You don't have to be in a particular state. That's why Terchen Barway Dorje says, within whatever arises. Strictly speaking, we could do this any time, but it's going to be much, much easier to do it at this moment when you've just dissolved the body of the Guru into yourself. But it doesn't require a particular state of mind. It doesn't require that your mind feel absolutely blank, or that you feel good, or that you feel bad. It doesn't require anything except being willing to, or allowing your awareness to look at itself. Because it doesn't require anything, and because that awareness is already there, Terchen Barway Dorje clarifies this by adding rest freely. That means without restriction, without attempting to force anything or tie your mind into knots. Naturally. You're not attempting to introduce anything or add anything. And freshly, without alteration. Freshly means in the present moment of experience. We use the term fresh as a comparative to the term stale. Stale is the thought of the previous moment. attempting to prolong the past. That's stale. Fresh is just what's there now. Now then he addresses the issue of what happens when thoughts arise. Probably, in most cases, many people have described this, since you're meditating, the first thought that's going to arise is going to be, this is it, if you're optimistic. Or if you're a pessimist, this isn't it. It's probably the first thought you're going to have. It's going to be, this is it, or this isn't it. So he anticipates that. He says, if the hopeful thought, this is it, or the interfering thought, this is not it, arise. And it's interesting he calls it the interfering thought. I find that very helpful personally, because this is how we sabotage ourselves. This isn't it, you're pathetic, you couldn't possibly, that kind of thing. Yes, that was me. That wasn't him, that was me. The point, and then further, the one is, it doesn't matter. Treat them the same. The hopeful or optimistic thought, this is it, and the interfering or pessimistic thought, this is not it. If either arise, he says, rest within what thinks them. Don't look at the contents of the thought. Look at what thinks them, what thinks. And then he makes a final point. Devotion alone is profound correction and improvement. Correction is Gyamtso, which in Tibetan it literally means the removal of impediments. And when we say Gyamtso, for example, that was the section of the stages of the path that Lama taught during the last teaching of the stages of the path. When we say Gyamtso, because it involves the word Gyek, which we think of as demons and spirits and things like that, we become superstitious and we start crossing ourselves, and yes, that was me, and we think that we need to do magic. But Gyamtso is correction. It's going back on track when you've gotten off track. It's correcting your course. So the best way to correct deviations in meditation, mistakes, errors, and the best way to improve is through devotion, for the reasons previously described. And at this point, Lama quoted the founder of the Drikung Kagyu, who in one of his writings wrote, it is only through the sun of devotion that the snows on the peak of the mountain that is the Guru can be caused to melt and flow down. The analogy sounds strained in English, it's beautiful in Tibetan. They flow down the four sides of the mountain that is the Guru, forming the four rivers of empowerment to purify you. I mean, it's very clunky in English, or at least my English, but the image is the Guru's wisdom is like the Himalayas. The sun hitting the peak melts that snow and creates the four rivers. And this is an important analogy, since all the water of the seven great rivers of Asia comes from Himalayan snowmelt, which is a fact that is going to increase in significance, yes, that's me, as we progress in our destruction of the planet, me again. But the point is, if you want to receive your Guru's blessing, which corrects problems, removes impediments, and brings progress, devotion will do it. And then the text concludes with the colophon. This was written by Barway Dorje at the behest of a worthy, devoted disciple, the yogin Karma Wangjo. May it be meaningful. Of significance to note here, Lama said, is the fact that there are so many disciples for whom Terchen Barway Dorje wrote such brief compositions. And we'll see as we go through this book that there will be more and more shorter and shorter prayers. The style of composition is evidence of the fact that these individuals, of whom there were so many, already had great experience and some realization. We can therefore infer from this that basically all of Terchen Barway Dorje's disciples achieved very high states of realization. We'll conclude for this afternoon with the dedication of virtue.
Da dedication in the Mesa Konana Chow Mari de Tenita, Jong Hoa Tamba de Tateranke, Nazo Gevetzawa, Chunjini Sepe Gevetzawa Teta, Denis Rangin Katane Lama, Sanya Ladrop Tendo, the Ladrop Tate, the Tombak Gevetzawa and Tuteke, then the Majon Rovan Katadanya Besimji Tamji Party Lama Dorje Janga Komba, Topgyal, oh, some the Nipa Monavi Genatini.
So please recite the dedication of this session of sharing the Dharma. By we can also say that this completes the final topic of the text, which would be the dedication of the virtue of the session. So if you were practicing this, you would at this point, after the meditation session, recite a dedication to dedicate the virtue of your practice.
Zonam de damji zebani tomne nibe dana pamzen jega namje bala roba ye seben zolen roba yo gewan de jiwo ga sona yigi zozo Sona yigi lezon we tamba gönyi tobara kyo sanjo semne rumbo maji pana ji jara je jiba nyamba meba koni konda pewara kyo semji damji deta denjara je ngendo damji tato tombara sanjo zamba kanda sargyo ba deta gönje mol Rabba yo sanje rejen zun ngadambe ka jargan de ya dandara lemba sabje me zon reve sanga sige zomdara jabe traji yo also
A drop called drama song. They watching that drama song.
Oh yeah. I talk